Kenneth Donald Sinclair is recognized as a builder and contributor in the sport of tennis in Aurora and Canada. Ken Sinclair was born in Toronto January 14, 1930. This Aurora resident is recognized as an exceptional volunteer, entrepreneur, businessman, and visionary. As Ken was growing up, he played hockey. His parents were not the sort to push him. In fact, they discouraged him from playing NHL hockey because in those days there were only 6 teams. And when Boston wanted Sinclair to play for them, Ken's father, Donald Sinclair, felt it was important for him to finish high school instead. Ken still played hockey until the age of 65 and did some coaching along the way. Ken and Betty met in 1950 on a tennis court. Someone bet him 50 cents that Betty would turn him down if he asked her out. She didn't. He won the 50 cents and they were married on September 20, 1952. And they have 7 grandchildren, ages 20 to 27, and 2 great-grandchildren. When Ken Sinclair completed his education, he formed Sinclair Coburn Insurance Brokers in 1953 and the Sinclair Coburn Financial Group in 1998. He was known as a successful and honest businessman.
I think his motto in life was honesty was always the best policy. And he was always very honest in every dealing that he ever had.
Ken became a member of the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club in 1958 when Ken's parents gave Ken and Betty a membership, where he began playing league tennis. Ken volunteered his time and energy to contribute to the sport of tennis because he was not only a visionary, but knew how to follow through and make his plans and dreams happen.
We'll stick with something to completion. He'll get an idea and then he would just make things happen. He'd solve the problems along the way, and he always did it for the benefit of others too, and never really for the benefit of himself, although he loved to see that completion happen. But he always did it so other people could benefit from his experiences.
Ken became interested in tennis in his late 20s after their 4 children were born. Sinclair found that he was doing well and began beating his competitors and stepped up onto the international scene with a drive to win. Despite the fact that in those early years, there was little support for those playing as seniors for Canada. Because of his keen business sense, he was able to afford to travel to support himself in order to attend championships all over the world.
Very personal person. People liked to be with him, talk with him. He was always willing to play tennis with anybody that came along. He'd love to play with the juniors. He didn't mind playing with people that weren't as good as him. So his ability to join in and be a real people person, I think that was one of his main successes.
On the court, Ken always had the drive to win. As a tennis player, he was a 10-time Canadian Open singles tennis champion, 5-time Canadian Open doubles tennis champion for over 45s. In 1985, Ken won the European Indoor Open Singles and Doubles Championship for over 55s, and he did not stop there. He went on to win the Crawford Cup for the over 70 World Championship for singles and doubles in Cape Town in 2000. But more importantly, he passed on his love for the sport to others.
He never won much money, but he won great silver plates and trophies and things like that. So he always had good memories of that.
Ken was always looking to make things better for his fellow players. Ken and Ralph Ander brought together some partners to finance and bring the first tennis bubble to Canada after seeing them in Sweden. The bubble was erected in 1968 at the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club. It was a single-court bubble at the time. The club would not pay for the $20,000 bubble, so Ken raised money and supporters to fund it, with the understanding if the enterprise proved to be successful at the end of the season, the club would pay for it and take it over. This venture indeed proved to be successful, and tennis bubbles began to spring up all over Canada. The club has since replaced the original bubble with much larger bubbles as a result of their success to facilitate year-round use despite the seasonal changes. Ken served on the board of the club from 1971 to 1975, serving as president in 1973 and 74. For 35 years, Ken was involved with the Ontario Tennis Association, chairing many tennis events. He brought provincial and national tennis championships to the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club, and he was instrumental in the success of the Canadian Open, now known as the Rogers Cup, working tirelessly as chairman from 1969 to 1983. At first, the Canadian Open alternated between the Cricket Club and the Toronto Lawn and Tennis Club, until Ken initiated the building and negotiation of a long-term lease with York University as a representative of the Ontario Tennis Association and Tennis Canada. Ken's dream was to have a tennis venue that would attract international professional players and further the growing of the sport in Canada. The Canadian Open moved to York University's $1 million stadium, seating 8,000 fans in 1976. The stadium, part of the National Rexall Centre at York University and home to the Rogers Cup, has been renamed the Aviva Centre. In 1985, Ken chaired the tennis component of the Masters Games.
My father was a great visionary, and when he got a vision, he would go right after the vision, and he would continue with that vision until completion. So a couple of big things in his life that he sort of imagined in his mind and then completed the project. And one of them was the building of the club Timberlane.
Ken founded and built what was known then as the Timberlane Tennis and Country Club. Ken and his wife Betty moved to Aurora in 1985 while it was being built, and 2 years later, the club opened in 1987. The name of the club was inspired by the tree-lined lane leading to the property, which was once a Mennonite farm. Timberlane Athletic Club became the venue for many provincial and international tennis events over the years. Ken also initiated the Jerry Park Tennis Facility in Montreal.
He and his tennis partner Lauren Main played a lot of international tennis, and they were very well known around the world, actually. If you mentioned their names in the tennis communities, most people knew who they were. They may not have met them, but they certainly knew who he was. He brought that back to Canada, and I think in many ways inspired a lot of people to play tennis. Maybe not at that high competition level, but seeing how much fun he had with the sport, a lot of adults took up tennis later on in life, and certainly with some of the things that he had done with Tennis Canada and with the opening of Timberlane and some of the old all-Canadian camps, a lot of juniors had picked up the racket and played tennis and had good instruction and could carry tennis right through into their adult years.
Ken co-founded and operated a tennis academy in London, Ontario. The All-Canadian Academy trained elite junior players, some of which went on to achieve great things. At both Timberlane and the All-Canadian Academy facilities, Sinclair hired longtime friend Lauren Main as a teaching professional.
So it was a fun time for a lot of people there, and it was good for the communities where it was also, because it brought more kids in to be active and to learn the sport. He made some terrific friends around the world, and even to this day I trip across them every once in a while in various parts in the world. It's quite amazing, actually, and they always send back their always best regards wherever we go. And he brought Canada to the world. He would just keep asking questions, keep gathering information, and then he'd say, "This is a great idea, let's go ahead." And we would.
Ken and his longtime tennis partner, Lauren Main, are still the holders of more international championships than any other Canadian, not only in tennis, but in any other sport. Now as a father, grandfather, and great-grandfather, his sport legacy lives on. The family enjoys many hours of tennis together up at their cottage. With Betty's unfailing support, the encouragement from his father, Donald, and the friendship of his tennis partner, Lauren Main, Ken has enjoyed many years of joy and fulfillment, not only as an athlete, but as someone who helped to shape the face of tennis in Canada. In 1989, he was awarded honorary life membership to the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club in appreciation for his outstanding service to the club and was inducted to their Tennis Wall of Fame in 2001. In recognition of the contribution as a builder in the sport of tennis, Ken was accepted to Canada's Tennis Hall of Fame in 1996 and received the Ontario Tennis Association's Distinguished Service Award in 2003. In May 2007, a tribute dinner was held at the Toronto Cricket Skating and Curling Club in honor of longtime tennis partners Lorne Main and Ken Sinclair. And now we are proud to welcome Ken Sinclair in the Builder and Contributor category as a member of the 2015 class of inductees to the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame.